Live. Welcome to anybody. And so today here is another kind of a live session. And is again, this live coding session is code that I need to write anyway. And so I'm trying to do it live. It's one of the things. So hopefully it will help people. If you have questions or things you would like to see, feel free to let me know. But today we have a cool kind of feature request in a way on our GenAI library. And it's to add a multi-content pair response. So the nice thing about this kind of library is that even if you're not coding a library that talks to AI, it's actually interesting to see how behind the scenes those APIs work. And this GenAI library, it's a Rust library, obviously, and it's basically connecting to many of the models and providers over there. And some of them are using the OpenAI compatibility layer, but some of them go natively to their API directly. And so, for example, you could use, I think, Gemini with the compatibility layer, but if you do that, then it will, you won't be able to do the thinking budget as a number. You will be able to do high, medium, low, but you cannot do 0, for example. And there's a good benefit of doing 0 because you get Flash 2.5 very fast, in a way. And then same thing with Anthropic, we go native. And then Cohere as well, we go native. And then the other ones, we use the OpenAI with some variation. Sometimes they have different things. And then the crate is making sure that we can do these kind of things. And we also support XAI, the Grok stuff. So today here, the request that we have, let me see that because this one is a good one. I'm going to show it there. And there were a cool issue which was spot on. Extension JSON, that is not stuff, that is a new one which is going to be cool. So this one here. And basically today, the way it works, and hey, Mohamed, always good to see you, and hi, Dylan. And so the way it works is that we go the request, and if it's a tool response, we are saying it's a tool response, and if it's not, then we are going into the text in a way. So it's one or the other. But sometimes when you make a call, you might get a tool call, or you might get a content, and both of them might be there. So that is a limitation of the crate right now, that it was either or, and we need to support both of them. And we almost have the support right now, but I want to make sure that we want to add that. So let's see the way it works. So we go there, and then we are going to go. So the key issue is like that. So we have our adapters, and this is the adapters that will communicate to each of the specific providers in a way. And some of them, like for example, Grok, will reuse most of the OpenAI sometimes. But sometimes there's some variant here on the way, for example, usage is computed or something like that. And XAI is the same thing, it's use OpenAI, but there's some variance over there. Now, what we are doing is when we return the result, we have the client, and this is what you use in your API. And we have our exec chat over there, and you will see that it will also, we're not going to do the stream. We're going to go the other one today, this one. And that is the exec chat. And then that will return a chat response. And so if we go to our examples, for example, the very simple one, here we go through all the models that you have, if you have the API keys. And then we're going to see that is where we do our exec chat. And that will return a chat response. And then if I could do a command click on the chat response, I have the content option of message. I have the reasoning content, which is cool because if the API sends us the reasoning content, we return it, as well as, hey, Mohamed, hey, thank you for joining, Mohamed, you're the best, early access. And then, and even in Grok, for example, they put sometimes the reasoning content into think tag. And there's a way here to say, hey, I want to have this compatibility as well. So it's pretty cool. But the thing here that we see is we only have one message content. And that is the issue. If we click on it here, we're going to see that it's going to be either text, either part, which is a set of content part, which could be text and images. And then go back there. And then we have our tool calls, which could be one or more tool call kind of things. Then this one here is a little bit tricky because we say, well, why do you have content part, which could be a text, and this one, which is a text? That is a good one. We'll solve that probably later. And then we have the tool response, which is a response. So that is what they want to call, and that is a tool response, which is, I don't know why we have that. Usually the tool response is what we're giving back to the guys. So we're going to see that. So I'm doing an option shift. Thanks. Actually, we don't do much with this guy. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So I capture it, but we'll deal with that later. But the point is, if we go to our chat response, this is the things where we can only have one, and we cannot have multiple. So what we want is to have multiple message content. Now, the trick is that all of the APIs that I was doing so far was on cargo here, and then it was 0.3, and so now we're bumping up. So that is going to be an API change, and it's going to be a relatively drastic one. Not too drastic because we have the API to allow to get text and everything out, so that is going to be fine. And then here on the README, I make sure that I put everything, the things coming up. So we'll add a new one here to say API change, and we'll make sure that people knows how to go. So we do a version bump, and then we're going to document that. So that should be pretty cool. Okay, so now that we have this, we know that what we really want is more kind of a vector of message content. That would be the good way of doing it. And then when we go back, and we're going to do this change here, and then when we go back, we're going to see that we have this function, which is a convenient function, which is say, return me the reference of the str if there is one. And so that we're going to have to change that, because now we're going to have an array of a list of message content. But we can probably, in my head here, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to keep it for now for 0.4. I'm going to make it deprecated. And then I'm going to follow that pattern over there, which is tool calls that say, give me only the tool calls that you have. And into tool calls means that, consume me and then give the tool calls if we really want only the tool calls. And so this guy will probably be deprecated. And then my thinking is I'm going to have a pub fn texts with a S. So I'm going to follow a little bit this guy, and that will be a self, and that will return a vector, which is going to be a new vector, but a vector of references. This one we don't really create. And then we'll probably have another one, which will be a into text. Then this one will be string over there and something like that. So these two guys here will allow us to basically take the text without doing a new allocation of string, and here by consuming the self. And then those guys will be deprecated, and I will make them such as everything works the same. I'm going to make them return the first one, which is basically is going to be exactly what it's going to be very close of what it does today in many ways. So if you do content as text as str, that will return only the first reference of tr because I cannot concatenate them. I could concatenate them here, but I want to keep the symmetry of that. So these two guys will do the first one. And then perhaps what I'm thinking about, and I'm not sure, fn, I can do a first text, and that will probably, so this one won't be deprecated. That will be the new way of doing it. So it's to say, if you know that what is sending you back is only one text message, you don't have to goof around with concatenating and stuff. You can do that. And then we'll probably have first into first text, and then we'll do something like that. So I think that will be things. Hey, Lomix, thanks a lot for the awesome tickets and bug. I'm actually implementing your stuff. If you are the same here, this was yours. Yeah, which is very cool. So I'm implementing that. And so that's the goal here. My goal is, that's very cool that you're here. This is this goal. And the reason why is because like right now, it was simple enough. I wanted to keep it simple. I wasn't sure if all AIs were going to send multiple content and everything. And sometimes the APIs are relatively, it went very fast on the AI APIs in many ways. And so sometimes they do something, but they don't stick with it. So I wanted to keep it simple at the beginning, but now is a good time to add that. So this will be this one. Now, again, since we are in the process of doing a version bump from 0.3 to 0.4, the timing is perfect for that. And since this one is going to be big, I hope I'm going to be able to do everything. But yeah, how the feature is built. But I think Lumix is pretty good as well. And then my thing here is I'm going to start a branch because might have a lot of different kind of things. Strategies. I'm going to explain. Well, my strategy is going to be first, I'm going to make the type change. I'm going to keep those guys, and I'm going to make it behave exactly the way it behaves today. So in a way, the type will be changed, but the functionality won't be there first. Hear me out. So that will be one commit. And so it's everything is the same. It should be one or the other in a way. Yeah. And then after, once I've done the type change and the API change, I'm going to do another commit, which is going to implement the features to make sure that we can have multiple. So that is my strategy. So like this, I can keep everything working exactly the same, and then I'm adding the new feature. So first I change the API signature, and then I change the behavior to have these kind of things. So that is going to be our strategy today here. So for that, so here's the thing. So I'm going to create a branch. So first I'm going to, I think I have a lot of branches now. I have. So NX for me is next. I'm very lazy when I type. So git branch D async res. I don't know what this one is. I'm going to do NS model and PR budget. So this one I know that they're out. And I'm going to do a branch A. Good. There's stuff work to be done. I don't want to go too deep, but in the async right now, since the Rust team is working on the async closure and the async FN and all of that, we couldn't do it because there's a missing part yet. But eventually we're going to change that to a new way. And that is one of those branch here has this kind of code that doesn't work, but it's good code to keep around. So now I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do a git sc, and that is an alias, which is a switch create, basically. And I'm going to do an nx And I'm going to do a multi-content. Okay, I'm not going to be very creative on this one. And then I'm going to add get C. And so again, my strategy here, so it's going to be a question mark, because question mark for me is API change. And I'm going to do chat response. Now have content vect of message. Okay, so that is the thing, which has obviously misspell. Font availability response. Git log, I'm here, everything good. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and so in this one, I have the pseudocode here that I have, all these kind of things. So text will do that, into text will do that, and then this is pretty good. Okay, so, and then one of these days I might have a drain or something like that to say, hey, I don't want to consume it, but I don't want to clone the element, so drain it or something like this, and then I give the vector. I need to think about that. But then it would be a mutable one, but might be good to have it. I don't know. So here's the thing. Now, what we want is a vect. Vect. Press save, and then kaboom. Yeah, so everything is breaking, which kind of makes sense. So now, this guy here, I'm going to keep them, but I want them to be deprecated. So I'm going to add that, and that is something I love with Rust. I'm going to do a deprecated getters. The thing I love with Rust is we can do this kind of different multiple blocks. Yeah. So I organize them like that. Things, and then I have these two guys. Now they are going to still complain, obviously. And I'm going to put the thing here, deprecated. And I think this is a not like that. Okay, cool. I'm sorry here. I'm with staff. Hey, Luis. Welcome from Africa. I mean, from here, but welcome. Thanks. And then I already gave the feature a shot and toasted it again. It's a heavy change, especially updating the test. And yeah, might be a little bit. We're going to go. But it's a needed. I think it's time to do it because it's way too emitting. And the thing here is not, and I say use is, I don't even know how to do this, but first text or text. Okay. And so now on this guy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the next one. So what this should be pretty easy. Now this one is what do I do? And then message content text as str. Oh, okay, but I don't need that anymore. Oh, yeah, this is good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to do a first. No, we're not going to do a first. What we want is we want to iterate over content, and we want to return the first message content text as str of the first text that we find. So we're going to do a for so D for me is when I don't know how to name it self, but we're going to name it later. Content. Message content. And so my question here in my head is, do I have content list or do I keep content? It's a tricky thing here. With content, there is no S. Content with a S might be weird. I don't know. So I'm going to content item, just to, I would say C probably. And then I'm going to do something like that, which is match. What does this guy do? This guy does this. Okay, I can try to reuse that. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, like that. So here I'm going to say, if we're at the end, there's no text, we're going to return a none. This one is easy. And then here we are going to do this text. There's a smarter way of doing it, but I'm going to do it this way for now. So, and we're going to do let content, and then I'm going to do message content. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm being slow here. I'm going to do this and that. And I think that should give us a reference of STR. And yeah, and it's ugly here what I'm doing. If text, I'm not happy at all with this code. This is not elegant. Sun return text content. But I just want to make sure that everything kind of works. And then the content item here is a ref, yeah, which makes sense. How do I? Always. And then, so the reason why I'm not, sweating too much about the map, there might be another one, but okay, fair enough. I'll do like that. Okay, cool. That's cool. So I wanted to make sure, and I should have known that, but hey, Learning Russ from UK. I'm from San Francisco, even if I have a slight French accent. Option self content, and then we return that. So that's good. So we get, so what I do is I have the inlay. I love inlay, but I don't like inlays all the time. So I do a command U that toggles them on and on. So I have the option FCR, and then the Rust compiler was nice because it could track all of myself and the option of str, because it knows the option str goes there. That works pretty well. Yeah. Now, there might be a better way here to write this guy. I'm not happy with that. And I think, yeah, we're going to keep it right now, like this. Yeah, there's a better way, I think, self-content. We could try to write it. I think the fine is not what we want, because I don't want to have a big code block. So I could do something like that and then fine. But then what does it do in fine? No, they don't have fine? They have fine. No, I thought, oh no, it's on iter. Yeah, so you will do an iter, and then you will do a first. And I think the first, no, that wouldn't work. Okay, I'm confused now. If I do a iter, oh no, first, there is no first, it's fine. And the fine is a P, and the P is a predicate. And I think is, and if I do like that, so I don't, okay, that's fine. So what we want is, we only want the one that we can reuse this guy. And the predicate returns what? So I command click, usually I command click. Oh, I don't like that. Why didn't go to the code? Okay. That's probably a new things. Okay, so this is not. So sometimes I go this or I go that. So find predicate, mute, and bool. So it has to return a Boolean, but I don't like that. Well, I'm going to keep it like this, I think, like I have below. Because then after I have to have a Boolean, and then I do this guy, but I don't, yeah, I want to end early. I don't. The find Boolean is not, because then I say it is a Boolean, and then, okay, I have the message content that is a Boolean, that is a string, and then I have to hope it's a string back, so I don't like it. I'm going to explain what I don't like, okay? So this is a good one. What I don't like, if I wanted to be, cuter, I will do something like that. I will say, hey, let content, and then I will do that, it here. I will do a find. That would be a reference of my content things here, yeah? And then once I have the reference of the iter, I might destruct it like this, such as I don't have two references. And then I will say matches. Yeah, cool. I think I can do matches like that. And then I will give, I think, the C. And then I will give message content text. Is it something like that? Text. And then, obviously, I cannot give that like this. I will give that something like that. Okay, good. So now I have an option of messages because I find the first one that has a thing that is a text. Okay, because it's text. And now I can almost say the following. I'm going to explain why I don't, but feel free to comment and differ with me here. So I have the option of message because I have these guys that say, hey, it's a message. But I didn't return the reference of text. So now what I'm going to do is to say, hey, if that is the content I'm going to return, then I can do something like that. That will actually work. Hopefully it won't lose. It won't lose is, yeah, fair enough. And then so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do, this is an option, which is fine. So I'm going to do a first content map. And so if we have a content, then I'm going to take this one. It's probably be a and then more than anything else. I'm going to do a let D here because D is easy for me to type it. And I like to see the type, option of option. So usually it's a good thing here to have an and then to that. Press save. And then I don't want to pass. It's not that, sorry guys, C. Okay, not too bad. And so that should be an option of str, and then we can return D. Okay. So that is, and then we can do, I mean, we wouldn't have if we really want to be Rust idiomatic, we'll do something like that. And then you can chain everything if you wanted. And that will be Rust idiomatic. Let's do that. So like this, I can look cool. Okay, so this works. Okay. There's something I don't like, and it's just a me problem here. There's something I don't like here because here we say it's text, and here we are redoing, not redoing, it's not a performance issue, but for me, it's like, yeah, we are redoing the things here. So when we are here, we don't know if it's text or not, but it's silly because we knew it was text there. So here we can assume here as a human that that is text, but we have to do the stuff again. So it's a little bit more Rust idiomatic in a way because we usually like to chain like that. But I actually prefer the borrowing one. Even if it doesn't look as cool, I think this is a better one for me. This is just personal preference. It's one doesn't change the other. Okay, so now on this guy, we're going to do about the same thing, yes? But to keep that, and we're going to do the same thing here. So we have a string, so we have self, we have the content, we want to consume now. So we're not going to do that. So that should be the message content. That is fine. We're doing the text as string. This is not what we want to do now. Text into string. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to do that. This is what I had above. And that should be something like this. And this is a text into string. The reason why I have both is, again, if we go to text content, I have this, and I want to allow the user of the library to not have to delete, to clone the string. String can be pretty long in this stuff. So we want to be careful about allowing the user of the library to not clone when they don't want to clone. And so now we have this one, and this is super, it is ugly, it is an ugly code. And then we return stuff when it's done. Yeah, but it does a job, and then the other stuff I'm not fine. Okay, so I'm thinking, because what makes it more ugly is this function here. Because in fact, if we didn't have this function, so I'm splitting hair here, but if we didn't have this function, it will be much more palatable. I don't know if that is the right thing, but I will do something like this. Can I do that? It complains. That's fair. Why does it complain? Mishmash type expected. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, if it's like that, see, I want it to be, before with the other pattern, no, I don't, I want that. This is much cleaner, actually. Much cleaner, I think, because then when we see it, there's not this, ugly things, and then it's very clean. Here we return only early. This is why we use return. And here at the end, we say we have none. So actually, you know what? Something doesn't smell good. This works, but not nice. So I'm going to do that, content item like that. And then if that, and I press save and it works. Yeah, much better code. So I might deprecate the other one. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Well, no, I will keep it, but I'm not going to use them. So that's good. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say use first into text or into text. Yeah? So that is a way that we're going to do, or we're going to do probably into first text. So that is the thing. We're going to implement those guys. Those guys will become that guy, and then we'll move that there. But for now, it's good. So we have this. I'm going to press save here. I don't know why I changed that. I didn't. Then what is complaining again on this guy? F8. Tool calls content as ref. So it's going to be the same way here. That is funny. So we're going to do, so here's the reason why I'm thinking in my head. Here we had the content and we do the as ref and we say, hey, if it's, tool calls, we're all happy, we're assigning it and everything is fine. We're collecting it into a new array. Very important. Now, the trick is if we really want to implement it correctly, since we're already sending a vector, what we should be doing is collecting, going through all of the message content. And if it's a tool calls, we add it into our vector. This is a way that we should be doing it later. Now, my question is, and the reason why we don't do that here is because we don't have choice. This one is a legacy. It has to be a first because it doesn't return vector today. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to do a thing like this, which is fix me. And we're going to say, make sure to loop through all message content. This is what we should be doing. In fact, we might do it there. So I'm going to do a let tool calls. Okay. We're going to create a new vector. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. We'll do like that. And we'll do a vect new. So I'm not going to do the collect and everything. Sometimes boring is nice. So I'm going to do a for, and I am in the tool calls I'm not in the into, so I'm going to do a call for, what do I have it there? I'm going to keep it the same name, such as content item, okay? So I'm going to do that loop. Don't have a reason to do something else. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to have my little match here. Yeah, that's it. To load the match. Match content item. And then if we have the content item, so I put the braces and then I put the / such as the thing doesn't reformat it. Otherwise, it collapses everything. So in this one, I want to have the thing. Hey, I'm sorry about this. I hate when this one I fix it. So now we do that. And in this guy, we'll obviously not tool calls. So that should be a tool calls, which will be tool calls. Okay. And now what we want, and so it's a vector of that. And what we want is, wow, this is going to be super. We have a vector of tool calls. I want to have a vector of reference of tool calls. So can we do that? Can I do something like that? And then I do a that, it here. Collect. Can I do that like that? Not sure. So that is what I want. Because I'm going to, well, okay, I'm going to show. Okay, that works. So I have this guy. I don't think this guy complained. Sometime when he complained after, you don't really know, but I'm going to assume it works. And then I'm not happy with that, but you're going to see. All tool calls. And then we're going to do that, and we're going to do an extend. And then we're going to give our tool calls. I don't like that, especially because we're going to do 2 vector allocation here, no big deal. Just want to check that the reference, that the compiler tracks the reference everywhere, which is, it seems to be, which is awesome. And then, so that we're going to remove that guy. And now, so we get the tool calls over there. Again, we have our vector of tool calls, which we want to return. Now, the question is, I don't really need to have option of vect of tool calls. So I need to think about it. I can change it by saying it's just a vect of tool calls. Back in the days, not that back in the days, somehow I was confused. I read somewhere, and I'm not blaming anybody else. I got confused. I thought that option of something was smaller, more efficient than a vect of something. And from what I read lately, it's not the case. So size and performance is not a reason to use option vs vector and option of vect if it doesn't have a semantic attached to it, because it might have a semantic attached to it. If it doesn't have a semantic, it's kind of not useful. Yeah. In this case, it cannot really have a semantic attached to it. Sometimes it might, yes, you might have a data structure where you can say, well, empty array is different than no array. Yeah, no array means this is not even a property of these things. It wasn't there. An empty array to say, well, there is an array, but it's empty. So sometimes you want both. In this case, I don't think we want both. So perhaps we will simplify it to vect of tool calls. And then the question is, and then, so like this, it would be symmetry with that. Usually when I design my API, I lack symmetry. And it's not always, but if something is asymmetric, you have to have a good reason for it. What I do is I have the why and the why not. Things falls in the whys when you need to have a justification of doing that thing. And things falls in the why not when you need a justification to not doing that thing. So for example, when I build a cloud application, PostgreSQL is in the why not, meaning that I need to have a reason to not use it, a very strong reason, because for me, it's kind of the default. Linux, for my containers, is in the why not, obviously. I'm not going to have a Windows kind of things. So this is a little bit like I see, and even in the little details like that, it's what I'm looking at. So I might change that. I'm not going to change it now because I want to scope the changes right now and just kind of eat the bullet of these guys that we want from a vect of message content. So bottom line is we're back to these guys, and this is actually working the way we wanted it to work. Does it? Yeah, it does. And then here is, I can see that I'm going to always return that for now. So the fix me is now moved here. Fix me needs to return just vect of calls that signature. Because there's no, now we know that that doesn't make sense. When we write that, just silly. So we'll go back there, and we're going to copy this one, going to do that one, and I'm going to do the same thing here, but it's the into calls. Still silly stuff. We'll fix that later. We don't need. We're going to do a fix me here, actually. And then that same thing goes there. And then we're going to have this. We're not going to have this, so command U, so message content. I have the content item, vector of tools, vector of tools. This guy is not what I want to do. I don't need that. I can do that. By the way, I don't like my stuff over there. It's a little bit silly. Now, if I were going to remove this, it will collapse it. Oh, no, it doesn't collapse it in this case. Yeah, often I do this technique to not collapse it when you have only one line. And I think it's because I have the semicolon, so it keep it in the block. This one I don't like. I create the stuff. I'm going to do a to-do. It's not a breaking one. This one is just to not look as silly when people look at the code. To-do, avoid the extra vect alloc. Doesn't really matter because this is almost nothing and it doesn't clone the tool call anyway. So it's not like we are creating bad stuff. So I'm pressing save over there. I have everything nicely. And then I'm going to go to the adapter. So again, very important here. The way I'm going to fix it, the first commit, I want to stage my commits. And actually, this commit will be pushed as is. I want to stage them because I don't want to implement the full feature. I just want to implement what was working before with a new signature. This is my goal. So when I'm going to go to our friend here, Anthropic, and I have a node somewhere, Anthropic support a list of content of multiple type, but not chat response, which is our stuff. So the strategy is to list all of the content and capture the text and tool use. If there is one or more tools, this will take precedence over the message content. We support tool call list. And this is what we had. That was a limitation. This is the things, but I'm going to trust you, Lomix, if you are still here. This is the thing that for me, in my little head, I didn't see the need of both, but because I didn't got it. I mean, I didn't get it in my use cases, but I can see why, sometimes there's the tool calls as well as the rest. So what we want here is now the content is not a thing anymore. So this is going to be fix me. Content items. And that is from the content of the thing. So this is a value. That is a type. And here I'm thinking is about, like right now, I don't want to change the behavior in a way. So one thing I could do is doing a vect here. Yeah. So this one is going to be super ugly. No, it's not going to be that ugly. It's going to be a vect new. Why? Oh yeah, because this one is not. Yeah? Okay. I'm being silly here. Oh my God, sorry guys. So I'm going to do a vect like that. Oh, well, I think, oh, it does it by itself. Look at that. That was impressive. press save, and then it put the bracket there. I don't know who is doing that, but it's cool. Okay, and now this one will pass. Very ugly, because again, needs to fix vect multi content capture. Okay, so we'll have the fix me. That's pretty ugly, but it will work. Now go back to this implementation over there. Press F8. This one. I have that guy, which is, so I have the last chat history item. And so I want that to be a vect. But this one is cohere. Oh yeah, I think I tried with cohere. It didn't really. I thought it was not. It didn't support. I'm not sure if they support tool calls, at least at the time where I have. Cohere is not a big, except if people really ask support. Cohere for me, it's a little bit, I did it for Oracle, but I'm kind of a mix on this one. So I'm going to do xtake because I want to take it as an option of messages. So I think that works. We don't want to change that. And now we are saying that if there is something, I don't know if that is a smart way. So this will mean we'll have the content, and the content will be a string. And then we have something like that where we're going to do a vect. Okay. And then we do an unwrap or default. We're going to be very Rust idiomatic, which boom, kaboom. So why does it do that? Mm-hmm. No. Oh, yeah, sorry. That was message from C. Good. Yeah, I was passing a function, so it didn't know what to do yet. So message from C, we have the message from string. That gets the things, we get the vector of content, boom, we solve this one. We need to see if cohere support the thing, I'm not sure. Now, the cool thing is the other guys didn't complain too much because they are using OpenAI. So once we're going to fix OpenAI, we're going to fix everybody. Now, if we go to the test doesn't complain too much because I think I use a function that I just fixed. Okay, so now let's go back there. We're going to close these guys. We go to which one? Gemini. And then we're going to have our content over there. Mash content. And then Gemini child content. So this is what I decided to do on this guy. I don't remember why. I do not remember why. Body to Gemini. So that is where I have the things. I get the response, the candidate, the parts. So this is where my stuff is wrong. Parts. Fix me. Need to read multiple part. Now, the things where it gets very complicated sometimes, and it's hard because they don't really say it in the doc when you're deep into the weeds, is like, for example, I'm not really clear. So sometime in OpenAI, I think, is they have this type of candidates because they wanted to allow in the API to answer, I think, multiple answer for the same question. So I don't know if candidates is part of that. And then I should just go through the parts. And that is what create my thing. Or if it's something else. So that is the thing I'm not super clear yet. Need to read the multiparts. So I think it's a multiparts. But multipart is also used when you do images and all this kind of thing. So things are getting a little bit tricky. So I don't know if candidates one will be another type of answer with multiple parts, or if it's the same answer that has different candidates. So we do the name, we do the things, we have the argument here, so we capture all of the data when it's a function call, because they do the function call like that. So I'm going to keep that there. And I'm going to, in fact, the content here shouldn't be that. So I could do a hack and say, I could go fast and lazy and just have, but I prefer to have a vect here. Boom, I'm going to break that. And then I break the streamer here, which makes sense. You know what? For now, I'm going to not do that. I'm going to add a fix me. I'm going to do that, something like that. And so now I'm going to go back to that guy over there. And I'm going to do this. So usually the to-do, I leave them. The to-do is not something that I want to fix for all the releases, and it's fine. I'm fine if I lose it. But the fix me, I might leave them over a couple of commits, but usually I like to close them. Otherwise, I make them to do. And I make sure that the thing is coherent. So fix me. Content list or whatever. And then we're going to say let content. And then that will be an option of message. Content. So we're going to do a content. Well, we could do that here. Yeah, result to do. We're in the ugly land anyway. So we're going to do vect. Look at that. Vect. Look at that. Oh. And then that's it. So that is pretty cool. We solved this guy. So far, so good. Very bad fix, but again, we change the API, we want to keep it as things. In fact, I'm going to commit that, make sure that things works, and then I'm going to change it the option of vect. I want to put it vect. I'm going to do another commit, and then we'll go ahead, and then we'll walk our way. So now, so often things is how we split them. That makes them simpler. That is Gemini here. I do the things. Content. Choices. See, that is the things in Gemini. They have the things which is choices. And choices, I think, is two different tracks. And some content is empty. Message content, reasoning content. When there is reasoning. So that was for DeepSeek, is not. I don't think It's a DeepSeek stuff. There's no recurrent, but okay, that is the normalization. Okay, we take the choice. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so that is what you were saying. So Gemini and Anthropic, they put the things back, when they do the things, they put message, could be a tool call, could be a content and stuff. Those guys, OpenAI, they have two things. They have one which is message content. That is a content. And then they have the tool calls, message tool calls. And here is a very bad thing that I do, which is what Lumix was talking about, is I'm eating it because I say, hey, it's one or the other. That's not nice. So again, I am going to just not fix this one. I know where to fix it. Yeah. Now, we want to say if we have content, we want to check if we have content. If we have content, we do this guy. And then if we have things, we do this guy, and then we just add it to the vector. And then that's it. That is what we're going to do. For now, above to have the list of content. And then we're going to have let content to let GPT autocompilot, unwrap or errors message content. I don't think that makes any sense at all. And this is not what we want. The content is an option. So we're going to do the thing that we did before. We say and then, and that will be our content. And that will be a vect of C. And then we're going to do the unwrap or default. Okay, interesting. Oh, no, I cannot do that. Funny. Map, sorry. Here it's and then return the other guy. Yes, no problem, Lomex. But thanks a lot. We'll have it. I'm not promising that I'm going to fix anything. I have a meeting at 4, but yeah, we'll fix that. This was a good one. So this is pretty good. And then what we're going to do, then that's pretty cool. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable. It's ugly, but now this guy complain everywhere. Okay, well, why does that complain? You seem to be trying to match destructing a single pattern. Consider let if. Do I want let if? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so he's saying, hey, you have a single pattern, so the thing is try let if. That makes sense. I like Clippy a lot. Single pattern again, that makes sense. Sometimes I start with match because I don't know where I'm going to land, but those recommendations are definitely completely valid. It's better to do that. So usually I follow Clippy. I'm highest respect for Clippy. And why did we? Oh, that was the old one. We don't want to keep that. There's no value there. Then that's it. I'm sorry, but this is pretty cool. Content text, that's good. Okay, that's fair enough. And that is a deprecated one. Okay, we'll fix the deprecated one later. And then, oh, okay, I was questioning it. It's too good to be true. So that is a lot of things about, I think it's all of the deprecated guy, which is fine. And then this one here is okay, or this is going to be, oh, I know why. So sometime when I do the testing kind of things, I have this stuff here where for my test, I use this get option things, such as if it doesn't have, and it should have, then it will complain and I stringify the field and everything. It's just a kind of utility. So now, because I'm using that in many of my tests, and all the tests are here, it's going to complain quite a bit. So I'm going to actually comment this guy. And I'm going to do that. And this is going to be the get option. From token is fine. Token is fine. That is fine. So those guys are fine. And that is where it's not fine. So assert that is not empty. So I'm going to say, this is easier now in a way. Okay. This guy. So I broke everybody because I want to spot my content guys. Total tokens is fine. So I'm going to do prompt. I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. So I press F8, F8, F8. So this guy will work. So a little hack this macro. I'm not super happy with that, but capture content, that is going to be another one that we're going to have to do. I think I will do it. Capture content is something else. And then this one will be, okay. F8. That's pretty good. So now I think I'm back on top. And now, boom. Fixed it. Good. You have to love compilers. Oh, look at that. Everything works nicely. So now I don't like this noise here. So what I do is I'm going to do that. They allow one deprecated. And so I'm going to go to my cargo to ML. And I'm going to allow unused for that guy. And I'm going to allow this guy as well. And I think the way you do it, can I just do like that? Yeah. This one has to be like these weird things because I do an unsafe code over there. And so you have to do that. That's the way it works. And then, that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a cargo test. And everything should work pretty nicely. So we'll do a cargo. And again, we didn't add the feature yet. We changed the signature. It's two different things. Yeah. So cargo. So I have a CWT, which is my cargo wash test. And it's a little FN on the thing. So I do a P. And I'm going to do anthropic, I guess. And test. So that is the way it works. Yeah. So if I want to test everything, I need to do another one over there. Press enter. And then I should have everything there. That's simple. Everything works pretty nicely. It doesn't do it in parallel because anthropic is a little bit interesting. So now we're testing that. I could do a cargo test of everything, but sometimes it's kind of long and then Cohere complain because I don't have the thing. So that is stuff, but this is good enough for me. And then I'm going to test Gemini. That should go faster. Oh, everything is good. And then OpenAI. OpenAI was broken this morning or a while back. I don't know. Pretty good. Okay. Git log. So my question is, so I'm going to keep this guy. I'm going to do a git amend because I'm going to amend everything there. Always do a git log before and git log. And now I'm going to say chat response don't have content and stuff. So I'm going to git commit amend. I don't have a like API change chat response dot content now have vector stuff. In fact, so everything works fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another change as well. And that is, the thing that we were talking about? We were talking about having something that option of vect. This silly stuff here. Where was our option of vect? Oh, tool calls. There. So that is the return stuff. So I don't want that. So I'm going to do, I should return that. And so now we can just return that. That should compile here, should complain in other places, I guess. Yeah, in some tests it complains, normal. So we are going to change that as well here. We don't want to return a vector here. So, well, I mean, an option of vector has no value and it makes everything more complicated for nothing. So we have that. So, and it's fine because, there's going to be an API change. So it's part of the 0.4 things. It's always tricky, yes. You can keep all your old API for life. There's a balance. Yeah. And so now what I want to do is those guys, remember, I'm going to keep having them. There's going to be our first text. That should be fine. And then I'm going to go down there, and this will be calling our first text. I'll do a self first text. That should be fine. Yeah, it's cool. And then this guy, I think we decided to call it into first text. Into first text option, because we don't know if there's a text. Yeah, so this one we want option. And it's only the text guy. And now we go back there. Make sure you don't keep duplicate. Yeah, because I make sure to not keep duplicate and into first text. Again, it's when people don't want. Into first text, into text. Okay? And now what we want is to implement those guys. Yeah? We want to implement these two guys. So again, the content type, there's one thing I'm not happy about message content, and it's a little bit tricky, is that we have string we have vect, and then we have parts here, which is a vector of content parts. And that could be these kind of things, because sometimes they sound like multi-parts. So I'm going to have to change that, maybe a 0.5, but at least it supports images and everything now. So, but this might be another 0.5 change. So I'm going to do this, and we're going to go to first text, and we're going to implement this one. This one, I want to implement it correctly, which is going to be very similar of what we have there. And we're not going to take the multi-parts. Yeah? So at this point, we don't take the multi-parts. So we're going to do the same thing, which is going to be let mute all text. And that will be a vector of new. And then let's see if Copilot can do it. Wow, okay, that was not impressive. And that guy is better. That guy is not that, where I didn't know the type. Is actually pretty good. This is actually what it needs to do, I think. All text. And that should be happy. That's pretty cool, because that was a reference of string, which is not what we want there. So we want a reference of str. That works nicely. And then we're going to see if we can do that. So I have it on option / I like to control when the machine helps. And then that is into text. That seems to be completely fair. That's cool. So here I'm going to do the test with OpenAI. Whoa. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, good. The stuff here, the tool use, obviously complain over there, because I have a OKR, and if tool call we're going to do is empty, and then we're going to do that guy. I'm going to do a fail. I think we can do a fail like that. Or panic. I think you can do a panic in test, it's fine. Oh, we're not in panic. Oh, we're going to do a return error. And I think we do an into. We have a boxed in over there, so that should work. Yeah. And then the reason why is because we have the boxed in, and then this guy here, the boxed in, has all of the from text and stuff. So I don't like anyhow. I'm not a big fan of anyhow. I like the boxed in pattern. And then this one is pretty good. Now the test should be complaining over there as well. So we're going to go back down here. And okay, we're going to do the same kind of things. So here is where we can do the panic. If tool calls is empty, I guess we can use the same strategy. Hop là. That will allow us to return that. And then we go back to the other guy, which should be not too far. And then we do that. Okay, pretty good. We're going to do a CWT, and we're going to, we already have it there somewhere. OpenAI, we're going to test that everything works. So far, so good. We're going to do the Gemini one. So again, in this crate, like I was saying before, I have this pattern of pair providers test because that allows me to test one guy at a time. And we have a kaboom here. Should we contain sometime? We have a kaboom because, yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Sometimes it doesn't, it's AI. So that is pretty good. So now we have we've done two things here. We changed the chat response tools, calls, that now, so I go back here and I'm going to check this. And so so this one is a nice one because it doesn't, impact anyone. It's cute. It's nice, just additive. So it doesn't break anything. This one is a nasty, well, I guess it's here as well. But this one is a nasty one. Not this one, the into calls. Yeah, the one that is a nasty one for the user of the crate. So again, I'm going to do a git commit a -m. No, a like that. And I'm going to have two. The first one here is API change. And we are in the chat response to calls. Now return vect. We cannot put staff, I think. They don't like it sometimes in to call. So that is make sure. And then I'm going to have its enhancement. And that will be the chat response. Now implement. And we don't have to put everything, but we're going to say text into text first and stuff. It's fine. We just don't have to put the whole documentation, but it's just for us when we are going to do the changelog and stuff. I like to have that such as I can update it. And my goal here is to make sure to update it in my README over there, where I'm going to, it's a little bit hard to read, but when I'm going to put stuff over there and say, hey, this is where it changes. And then in my changelog as well, we'll put it there. We'll have it on top over there. So that's my goal. So 311, 9 people. My question is, do I do the next step or not? Git log. My next step will be to implement the true one now. So it might be good enough for today's live. I don't know. We started at 1:45. Yeah, 1 hour and a half might be enough. So now the things that I might do in the next live will be, so what we did is this one, tool response, not the tool response, the chat response. We did that, we changed that with a vector of things. Now the problem is the adapters are not creating the vector of things. Let's do that actually. We're going to see if we can do that quickly. let's go with the OpenAI. So here's the things that we're going to do on the OpenAI. If we look at, and again, what this crate is doing, you can find it. I don't know if people, if you do a crate arrow and then you go GenAI. So that is that crate. And then, so that will be the 4.0 kind of things here. So if we go to the repo there, and then the goal of, oh, did I do it again? Sorry. So that is that crate that you can find on crates.io. And the goal of this crate is just for the chat things. It doesn't have all of the AI, like voice, audio, and I might add audio, but it doesn't have, very specific things that are not GenAI. It's more kind of a multi-AI from the GenAI, from the chat kind of workflow there. And today, what we did is we changed the things because there were good requests from Lumix to say that the tool response, not the tool response, the chat response, we only have one message content. But sometime AI provider can provide the human message and the tool call message in the same kind of thing. And that is a pretty advanced kind of workflow, but it's important to support it. And they all support it in a different ways. So with GenAI, I have native drivers for each of these providers. So when I talk to OpenAI, I go with the OpenAI API, obviously. But Anthropic, I use the Anthropic protocol. Gemini, I use the Gemini protocol, which always allows you to have more stuff a little bit. In Gemini, for example, you have full control of the thinking budget, not only high, medium, low. DeepSeek is using the OpenAI. Ollama is using the OpenAI. I'm not using the Ollama protocol. Grok also is using that, and the XAI also use OpenAI. So some of them use OpenAI, but the big three is kind of different protocols. And one of the things here, if you look at, and it's pretty cool because, I found that cool. If you go to the code here, so you can see the adapter. So many of those guys are going to point to that guy. So this guy is made in a way that, you have your util here that people can call. And we have this function to chat stream. So we're going to have to change the stream as well. So, but that I'm not going to do that in this live. But what we want is to chat response. Okay. So the way here that we're seeing is that in OpenAI, this is the JSON back. They have choices, but you always take choice 0 because we're not in the business of having different, choices everywhere. Because sometimes you ask a question and you see sometimes in the OpenAI you have 2 different answers. That is their support on the API level, but we don't necessarily want to go there. So we take the first choice all the time. But then in the first choice, they might have content, message content. This is, what's his name? DeepSeek has added that. I'm not sure that OpenAI support that. Well, we need to see. When I say standard, it's standard attempt of DeepSeek. So I would be interested to see if OpenAI offers that. And they are very cautious about that because they don't want the DeepSeek to steal their reasoning and all of that. So, and if there is no reasoning, sometime in Grok with a Q, with Mistral and Meta or whatever, they have the tax think. And so if you set the option to normalize reasoning content, I will actually extract the content, which is pretty cool. And then we do that. And so what we see here is that we're doing an either or, which is not what we want. And then we have a vector of 1, obviously. So what we want is, we don't want that. We want to make sure that if we have message content, then we add a message content of text. And if we have a tool calls, we add a message content of tool calls. That is the API that we're exposing. So rather to do this, I'm going to do now. So I don't want to match on this. So this logic is wrong. Okay? What I want to do is, once we have our first choice, we are using the JSON pointer, which is implemented by CRD. That xtake is just a little wrapper on top of it, but it's CRD implementation here. And I'm taking this guy as an option. And so we want that logic, but what we're going to do is we're going to have the let content here. We're going to say new content because it's a new one. And we're going to do the mute. Because I don't want, in my little code, I don't want to change that. I'm going to keep this guy as, well, we'll see. Yeah, so I want to have a different name on this guy. And then I will rename it content. And so that will be a vect new. And then this one will be a vect of message content. Again, if I go to my chat response, I have content now. That is what we added before it was option. We added a vector of message content. And then the message content can be text or can be tools or can be multiparts. Okay? So now when I go to my adapter, so I'm going to pin that and I'm going to pin this guy. I'm going to say that I want to take this guy. Yeah. So I want to take the first choice. That's good. I'm going to return the content. What is the content here? Content is option of string. You know what? I'm going to make that. Usually I don't like the mute, but I'm going to make the something like that. Option of string. Okay. So that will allow me to remove that now. I don't need this. What I need is to say, hey, so because I have this new content and stuff, and in fact, because I removed that, now I'll go back and I can remove that. So now this one should compile nicely. This one will complain because you say, hey, what the hell? And everything compile more or less. Inside it will break, obviously, but that's fine. And so I have this guy good. I go and take only the first choice of OpenAI. Then I have my first choice, which is a value, CRD value, and I take this guy. So this is what I'm taking. So I don't need to do a match anymore. I'm going to do if let some text content. I think that is a good one. And I'm going to take this, no question mark anymore, question mark, because it can fail to take. And that will be the string. So now we have a text content over there. And now that is the logic we had there. And it's tricky because now we also try to take the reasoning content, if there is one. So we take the first choice and then we go into the reasoning content. So that will take it. I could have used X remove, I think now, but that will take it out, such as we don't clone it. And that will take another guy, this guy, which is a reasoning content. And now we don't want that. We are going to want that guy to be, we want that guy, yeah? Okay. So now by default is none. If we go there, we're trying to get it. If it's none, it's none. And then we do the OK. Okay. But that is the thing. The thing I wanted to make sure here is that if there is an error of getting that somehow, I want to be permissive and ignore it. So that is my strategy so far. And then we're going to still do that. If reasoning content is known, extract. Interesting. So that is interesting. So here what we're doing is to say, if there's no reasoning content, and the option is to normalize reasoning content, because sometime in OpenAI, so OpenAI, I don't know if they give reasoning content. That was a cute attempt of DeepSeek to say, hey, we're nice people, we're giving you the reasoning content. OpenAI say, well, we're non-profit, but it doesn't say, even if nice starts with N. I mean, we are who we are. We're not giving you the reasoning content. I think they are giving it now. It's in a weird way. If you validate your account or something like that, it's weird. But in the API, I don't even know if they are giving us. The point is, sometime in Grok, for example, or in Meta, or in Grok, or even Olama, they say, because we're not going to add this, if there's a reasoning content, we'll put it into content into a tag like that, think. And this is a cool thing that I've implemented over there. And so in a way, now, this guy is going to say, is going to change the content. Because if you extract the content, you want to remove that, such as you don't duplicate the content. So I'm going to put that there. Because now we want to, so that consume it by design. And so if you look at the string here, it will look at this tag over there. And then it will return the content, which could be the content as is, and the option of the reasoning if it finds one. So that is the way it works. So now what we want is, we don't want to lose this guy. So what we want is to say, hey, this is why I had the logic before. So, but that's fine. We're going to say let, what are we going to say? Yeah, let content. Interesting. Content. So what I want here is to say, we're going to go ugly for now. Mute. Usually I don't like to have mute everywhere like that. I like the way of trying to avoid them. Right now I want to get the logic right. So I'm going to say let content new, and then reasoning content new, or TMP. I don't like the name, but you are going to understand why. So we're going this, and then the goal here is to get these two guys over there. And now that will be a string and option of string. And now that, and I will simplify it later, but right now I want to get my logic right in my head. And the way I work is, I don't want to go too deep, but I'm not the boss of my head, of my brain. So I'm just trying to play with my brain of how it lacks it. And right now I don't want to solve elegancy. I want to solve the logic kind of things. And then after I would go to the Rust idiomatic way. And so I have the text content, we have these two guys, and now we have the string and things. So now I'm going to say, hey. So now what I'm going to say, I'm going to say reasoning content equal reasoning content TMP. And that will be the new content that I want to use now. Yeah, because that is the one I wanted to use that guy now. I don't want to use it, the other guy. So I want to have the text content back to that. This one consume it. Does it consume it? Yeah, that is going to be interesting. And then this one is putting it back. Not sure that Rust is going to like that. We'll see. And here sometimes you don't see the error because there's this guy, so sometimes you don't see the errors above. So we shouldn't get too cocky on this one. So we're going to do that, and that is reasoning content compute. Okay. And then we go back there. This will be, we don't need this code anymore, but I'm going to keep it there to make sure I don't forget anything. And now I have my text content. I have my reasoning content. So reasoning content, the guy will need it later. But my text content now, I'm going to add it there. I'm going to do content, push, and text content into. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so we have a text that will push it. It's a vector of things. I implemented the from. So it's important when you implement the types here. It's a pattern that I like a lot. Implement the froms. This is my advice. Yeah, you implement the froms and everything from, so I put them in a code region like that, and I have froms like that. And in fact, you know what? We'll clean it up later, but this derive more 2, it's awesome. So with derive more 2, derive more, to create 2, version 2, I could have implemented all of the froms. So here I have a lot of froms. Yeah, and that from string, and I want all the time everything, yeah? Why do I have the stuff A? That's perhaps because shouldn't need that. Yeah, I don't need that. And then I have this guy, and then that, these 3 guys that always go to the same one, yeah, from text. Now, here's the magic of this. Well, do I want to change it now or not? Yeah, so that is always a question, is do you change it as part of someone else? Usually it's not good. So when you do a pull request, you don't want to do this refactor because it's better. It might be better, but you don't want to do it because otherwise it's, then the pull request has many other things and stuff. On this one here, for example, if I were going to, I think it's this one, I have the from here, and then I can do a from. I think it's from str. Now I should complain because I have a from str here. So I'm going to comment that. Boom, it passes. I can delete this guy. And here it is. This is, derive more is awesome. I'll go back there, and I'm going to say reference of string. String. And you don't want to be smart and say, hey, everything that implements string and stuff, because then you end up by having some over implementation. It's over implemented, and then you have issues because there's overlap. So usually you want to, I think what I found is you want to implement these 3 guys to be super nice. So that is the thing which is nice. And I'm going to assume that this one is a move, obviously. And now if I go there, so that is what we have, the into over there. And good, I attempted a reasoning, and we are pushing, and then yeah, okay, so it's a content type, or content message. What is the name? I don't even, message content. Okay, so that is pretty cool. And so before, again, remember we had the match, and we say, oh, if there's content here, we do this, and if there's not, we do the other guy. That is what we had there. But now, what we want is to say, hey, if there's nothing, Sorry. So now if there's message content, which we know is text, we do that. So we push it to the thing. And then if there's that guy, okay. And now we're going to do a if let some tool calls. And that is my third choice. I'm going to do a OK because I don't want to, if there's an error of parsing or whatever, I mean, at this point, I don't want to be too. And then I do a parse tool call. That makes sense. We're going to do exactly the same one. And then I got into a silly way of doing it. Transpose. So that is because that will be an option of a result, and we want a result of an option. And then we do that. And I think if we do that, that should compile nicely. And then here we have a message content parse tool calls, which is going to be our tool calls. And then we have done all of the hard work. So if some, so I'm going to go here, push eventual text message. And then push eventual tool calls. And that is going to be super simple because now that is a message content. It already did the work for me over there. So I can just do a content, push, and then this guy. That is already a message. That's it. So one thing that I'm going to work with Lomex here, which is he's the one that put this great tickets. Because again, before there were a limitation, I had content. It was either one or the other. Yeah. So now I capture both. If there is both, I capture both. And then we can do the anthropic. Anthropic has a different way of doing it. So the nice thing is, this API has all of the convenience and the normalization of all of the things, but it goes natively there sometimes. That is pretty cool. And then what I will work with Lomex is to make sure to have the use case. I don't have the use case that return tool calls with messages, but I'm sure there's one. And then that's it. This is pretty cool. That is the thing. And so now if we go to chat response, the way I structure it is you have the content. So now inside the vector of content, we have text, we have tool calls. That is multi-part. We'll talk about that later. And then we have the tool response as well. Tool response, I need to think about it. This one is I don't know why that is part of the response, Usually the tool response is what you send back. Say, hey, you asked me to call those guys, and here's the tool response. So I'm not really sure why. Oh, yes, I know why. Because I'm reusing message content to send message as well. So in the chat message, yeah. Chat message and content is message content, message content. Yeah. So in fact, I'm going to go here and say, So there's one thing that usually I like to take myself. I treat my future self as an external developer in a way. So I'm putting notes for me for later or for someone else. Yeah. So this is a note. Message content is used for the request as well as the response. Okay, that's perfectly fine. And we have this, and we are going to do, what are we going to do? We're going to do a CWT test. So that again, CWT is my cargo watch. I have a little function over there. It's a shell function. And dirty hack. And then I'm going to add this guy. So test P for provider, OpenAI, and I want to test everything that starts with test. So that's my way of, when I give two names, it tests the files. If I give one, you just do a cargo test of that prefix. And then that's it. That's pretty cool. So now my question to myself is, C, and we'll do something like, it's not minor in a way, is OpenAI chat response content. So in the stream yet, we haven't done that. I might do a live, or I might do another kind of things there. So that's it. So that we did this guy, the OpenAI, which is going to solve a lot of those guys. And now we can go to the Anthropic adapter. And that, and it's funny because we have a long note here that explains, that support a list of content. So in a way here, we are following more the ways of Anthropic than the way of OpenAI, in the ways that we are storing our content. Is more flexible in a way. But then it's nice because you still have functions in chat response where you can extract whatever you want, the first text, or the text as an into text, and then the tool calls and into tool calls. So it's best of both worlds in a way. So if I do a cargo test, Anthropic, that will work slowly, but it works. Now, what I want is I'm going to do the Anthropic kind of guy over there. And what I'm going to do now is, so you see here, we only took one. What do we took one? Push text content. So we get the item, so we get the content, okay, from the body. And then this is the vector of text content. Funny. That is the vector of two calls, which is option. So that one can probably, making sure that I don't have any git change over there. So I'm going to put that there. This option of vec, it was back in the days, I messed up in my brain. I thought again that option was more efficient. An empty option was more efficient than an empty array. And I think that that is not the case. So it's not needed to do these kind of things, except if you need the semantics to distinguish between empty array or no array, which is not the case here. So, and this is where it's silly because I'm doing all this get insert where I could just do that. And then it's much simpler than what I thought it was going to be. Oh, that is awesome. So I already done the logic of concatenating the text and all the tool use, which is what I'm doing here. Yeah, so that is a tool use, that is a text, and I'm concatenating it. Yeah, technical shows. Yeah. So this is exactly that. Hey, yeah, option of vect is a why. You need to have a good reason to do it. Otherwise, don't do it. It's just silly. I think. Yeah. If someone prove me wrong, it's fine. But the last thing I checked, there's no difference in memory or stuff between, and there's a difference, but there's not a size difference or whatever between the empty vect and the option. So now it's much simpler because we did the thing. So I'm going to tell you what goes through my head here. The thing that I'm like, so the good news is we're fixing that. All of this stuff, we're fixing this. The bad news is, things is, here you see we are like doing this content type and we are going to actually concatenate it. So this means that what we're doing here is we're not creating a new GenAI message content item for every text. We're actually concatenating them. Okay? We're doing push, and then we take the text, and then over there, we're going to do a join from that guy. Yeah? Which I don't like this guy. It would be good to have an empty line. So usually you will do a join on two things because, it's two different things. I don't know, actually. So this is a trick. It's a decision that I made before because, again, we had the thing. So I simplify it. OpenAI work differently. So it's very similar to OpenAI in a way. It normalizes it to OpenAI, but we are losing some information here. If for whatever reason it was important to know that those two texts were actually two different items in their content, then it would have been tricky to do. Yeah, then we are losing it. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put a note here. Here we are going to concatenate all of the Anthropic text, context item into one GenAI message content text. More in line with OpenAI API style, but lose some information, but lose items. Okay. So I'm going to put that there because, again, my future self, I like to put this. It's for me stuff. Sometimes I do that and I say, hey, correct English. So that will allow me to know what's going on. That I decided to make that. That is not a coincidence. If it's a bad choice, it's fine. Making bad choice, as long as we know why we make them, is no big deal. Making bad choice, lying to yourself or ourselves, and then trying to contortion things, is like, no, it was not a mistake. That's silly. Yeah? So making that, I'm not 100% is good, but right now, I feel is good. So now the cool thing is I have my text content, and then I have my tools, which I already did that. And then here I did a if-let, which was very bad. So that was bad. And so, and my mistake before, by the way, this was a bad mistake because even in the OpenAI API, it was clear that it was two different things. So I should have put in chat response at least a tool call separate than my text content. But then after, because I did this message content stuff, I'm going to normalize everything there and then have the API to be convenient. So now now it's more like this, yeah? If we have, so content items, I'm going to rename that just to be super clear, and then let content equal, that will be a vect of message content, and that will be a vect new. Oh, epic fail. try to do the thing. So that is content. And now I'm going to do this. Yeah, that's awesome. Push. I mean, it's awesome. I always get excited about stuff, but it's weird that at my age I have that. So tool calls vect. Oh, okay, fair enough. That's no. So first of all, it's not that. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. If tool calls is empty, it's not empty, then we are going to content push. And this one is mute. I'm going to content push this guy. Yeah, so if it's not empty, we push it, otherwise we don't push it. And then, and I'm going to check actually, if I were alone, I would check OpenAI, making sure that I'm not adding empty stuff. No, because here I know that there is one over there. Yeah, so here they got one, and I got them. By the way, here we are losing. Yeah, it's funny. We went from vector of tool calls. Here I could have that, and that could be an empty array. Yeah, because that is an array business. And so we are losing the fact that, the thing kind of disinformation. The fact that it has this element, but the element was an empty array. And I think that's why, the reason why before I have tool calls, perhaps. It's not the reason why I put it there, but it might have been the reason why. But I'm not going to revisit that. I think it's good the way we have it. Tool call is empty, we do that, and then this guy is going to be the same thing with text. Yeah? So if we say F, and then we're going to say if Copilot can do that, pretty good, Copilot. That's good. Boom, compiles. Now we are going to do git log. I have 10 minutes and then I have a meeting. So I'm going to have to end this stream. I'm forced to it. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to follow that pattern. And I'm going to do something like that. Git C. Obviously. Okay, sorry. So now we have this. And I committed a little bit early here because usually what I will do is CWT, test, P, Anthropic, and then test underscore to say I want to test everything. Now, to be honest here, the tests, I could have more tests. Yeah. But it's kind of a sanity check. I'm going to do V4 because V4 is so big. I'm going to do a alpha release kind of things, or RC or alpha. And I will use it in my AI pack, which use that a lot. And if it works there because I use AI pack all the time, then it will be probably robust. And then it would be interesting to see if people rightfully, I'm not saying complain about the API change, but I think it's for the better. So sometimes you have to take the hit. So yeah, it has to be. As long as you do as a version bump is good. What you don't want, and at this point I'm making sure is, you don't want to change the API on a minor version and then everybody kind of break when they do a cargo update. And so that's not nice. And I'm not saying that I'm never going, I might do a mistake, but typically I try to avoid doing this kind of stuff. And this is pretty cool. And so now The only guy that is remaining, Cohere doesn't have tool support, I think, right now. And then the only guy that is remaining is this one, which I have it there, but to chat response. And then I have the streams that I need to do. So that is another guy. So this one, the problem is, okay, so here I decided to build the content there. Okay, so that is part of this function. And then this is, so I'm not going to do it today here. This is what I will need to do here, I think. I will need to iterate through those guys, through the parts. This is what I need to do. And then it should be good. Now, did we add? The thing I'm not sure is I thought that we added image. Okay, Gemini doesn't need. Okay, but we added image though. Oh, yeah, but we added image. I'm sorry. In GenAI, we have the image support that you can send image, but today you cannot receive image. And that is a limitation that I need to fix in many ways. And I think that could be a good use case here. So I think what I'm thinking is that, again, this one, candidates might be this silly option that they had before, back in the days of they wanted to, you ask one question and then the AI kind of answer different ways, completely parallel. I'm not planning to support that in GenAI because I don't think anybody is using that per se. And it adds quite a bit of complexity into the API, make it very heavy. So I made the decision to not support that. Who knows? I might change it later. But then this is the multiple parts. So within this guy, this could be the multiple parts. And that is where they will send image as well. So it will fit into our message content kind of things. So this is probably what I'm going to do. And then one thing that I might do, I think, is that my content is in a way multi-part. So right now I have this part business here which is there, but I might say, so if you do a content part, you can see that there's text and image. But perhaps what I do is I go back to my thing and rather to have that, I'm not going to have this now, yeah? But rather to have this, I will have something like that. Or like a, image and then an image to be symmetric with the rest. Yeah? So perhaps I have something like that that might be better. And so like this, I don't have this kind of use case where I have this content part below because it's getting very complicated after. To try to wrap your head around, it's like, what happened if I have text here, but and text here, is it the same one and everything? So I think I will normalize everything there. Anyway, so that would be definitely for another kind of live or might be offline, I don't know. And my goal is, I'm going to check here what I did. Okay, that was a mistake. Git restore. And that is what I'm going to change. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I think we're good for today. And until next one, feel free to, so we have office hours. I'm going to set it up probably the first and the third Wednesdays of every month. And that would be MS Team. People can join on live. So that would be for the members, the office hours members. And for early members, there's a cool videos coming about Redis Stream and stuff. It will be public on Saturday, Sunday, and then it will be on early members soon. I need to put it there. So until next one, happy coding.